Hey everybody, it's Texas Stroker here, Lance's Performance Shop, Mopars.com. It's cold Saturday night here in the shop. Fall came, daylight savings time came, rain came. We had like 2 storm systems with 2.5 inches of rain. It's been soggy, the shop's flooded, all sorts of things. The losing daylight when you leave work and then drive into the black abyss of the night really sucks. And I'm out here trying to have a good time, and then of course we turn this on and the battery light's flashing automatically. That said, I spent a lot of time making notes right before I hit record and realized that, so we're just gonna roll with it. And what we did last time is we took a look at these beautiful little things here on a appropriate rail. It is a 3/8 drive 6-point deep socket set from KTC. Curiosity. Don't have to have these. We've got Koken. We've got other things we can plug and play, right? I want to know. I have to experience, I have to test, I have to compare, right? And as I mentioned in that video, these are bench impression-wise fantastic. Sadly, they have done nothing. Granted, it wasn't long ago, but they've not gotten to put in any work for me, past just playing around after the video type of a deal. They pair very well with the KTC Rotos, I've got sitting down here, which were extremely cold when I came out and grabbed them. Gonna need those here shortly. The other thing that we were very interested in pairing them with was right here, our Nepros ratchets, right? Of course, again, have to stress this, KTC, think of that as like your parent company, and then Nepros is just a division from KTC. It's sort of like they're over the top, like, wow, look what we can do. You know, just that type of a thing. It's the upper echelon, but it is the same parent company. Hence, you should expect really good fitment, plug and play, probably a lot of similarities if you have the stuff to compare, right? KTC, actually a little harder to come by here stateside than Nepros, but it is what it is. Hopefully that changes, whether that's just through DRPD or, you know, somebody else cashes in or something. But I'd really like to get like standard KTC ratchets, pair them with the sockets, see how they compare. You get the idea. You know how I operate. That's why many of you are here, because you have the same thought pattern. Speaking of that, where are we going in this little video? Well, we got our envelope here from DRPD, and we'll take our chances. Sometimes we look cool, sometimes we don't. Right there, we look pretty cool. Could have been slightly better because we have 2 stickers here. And, DRPD, I've gotten 2 stickers recently from DRPD that I didn't have, so not sure if they're new or just ushered in slowly type of a thing. But this one, which is just like conventional 90s holographic type of a thing with a black font, and then sort of a mirrored of that white background and sort of just a holographic font. Cool nonetheless. But those are there, and they are there for a reason, and this is about to get really ugly. Looks really cool right now, but I have the beloved brown paper of DRPD. I'm just going to throw that down and think, oh yeah, you weren't kidding. We had a lot of eye candy here, and now we're looking at brown paper. Well, like I've said before, this is how I pack. It's how KC Tool packs. What's inside is what counts, and what is inside is a pretty big score by way of the warehouse sale. It still ties in with the warehouse sale, and it's kind of an unconventional way of doing things, but I did it my way, and we saved money. And when you can do something the way you want to do it, and you save money, that's a win, because usually your way doesn't save money. But in this case, let's just crack this open for you. Oh, the deliciousness ensues, right? And, you'll note there's a whole lot going on here. This is a thick stack. Like, oh, good lord. This guy really does love the compact spinners from Nepros, doesn't he? I do, but that's not what this is. This whole cluster of epicness is essentially a 3/8 drive, 6-point shallow socket set from Nepros. Now, I don't exactly recall what lengths Nepros goes to, but if you buy from DRPD, just like you did with the KTC set, that you can sort of see there, he does special sizing. It's 1/4 to 7/8, pretty much intact. There is an 11/32 there. And he did the same thing. Obviously, KTC Nepros, again, think same company, so has the same setup with Nepros. And you're thinking like, well, man, why aren't those like on a rail or something, you know? Where's the box? Is this just how they come? I bought every single one of these individually. There's two reasons for that. Number one, the socket set that would have probably come pre-packed and populated on a rail or in a box like the KTC ones, they were sold out. And at first I was bummed about that because, again, you always try to get, especially something like Nepros, on a big sale. Well, here's the deal. I did the math. Yes, I sat there for like, 20 minutes and go through the website and find all the little prices I need and put them in a spreadsheet, and I was like, huh, it's cheaper if I do this. And that was the green light, man. Then I just had to go back and add everything to the cart. And on the warehouse sales, some of the sockets were cheap, discounted. Others were just standard MSRP pricing. And it's kind of the ones that you probably wouldn't sell as often seem to have the heavier discount, or vice versa. Don't really remember now. But the bottom line, I pieced this together. This is not quarter through 7/8 with 11/32. First thing I did is can 11/32. Second thing I did is add 15/16. Again, I think I'm going to keep these at home, but in the event that I take them to work to get accelerated usage rates from them, 15/16 is very important. Why? 5/8 hardware. Tons and tons of 5/8 hardware. So how do we want to do this? I think we'll do the boring stuff first for you. Basically, if you were to come in here and you were to buy the quarter through 7/8 set, which would include a rail and 11/32, current price on DRPD as of recording this early November, $136.15. That's not terrible when you think about what you're getting and how over the top every single socket is. All right, and I know because I've investigated one of them, I couldn't hold off. But the way I did this, again, I canned and scrapped the 11/32, but I did add the 15/16, which is bigger than anything on the standard set. And with the warehouse sale pricing, we came in at $106.55. That is right. Everything that you see here, the Nepros sockets, quarter through 15/16, $106.55. That's a pretty good deal. All right, especially for what this is. Now, can you get something of great quality for a lesser price? Yes, you can. But to get Nepros at that price point, that's why I've never done this in the past. That's why I did it now. It was just a great deal. Everything fell into place, and here we are. To give you comparisons, all right, and a great comparison, in my opinion, would be the KTC set. You can get a KTC 3/8 drive 6-point shallow set and rail, just like what we did here. You would be able to procure that for $88. And some of you are like, well, that's a way better deal. I can live without this. I'd feel bad if I scratch these. I'm going to scratch these. The KTC has more of a satin finish. Not going to feel as bad. Cheaper to replace too, I'm sure. And you'd be right on all those points. And at 88 versus the 136, that's a very significant savings, essentially $50 cheaper, right? But with the warehouse sale pricing, it's still cheaper, don't get me wrong, but 88 versus 106, we're just going to call that $18. To go from that finish to this finish when we've never had this finish, I'm willing to take that gamble. I will roll the dice for sub $20. And we also have something to pair with our Nepros ratchets that is from the same division. Same fit, same finish. Should be fantastic. But some of you want more. You want more for less, right? And that, again, I say this all the time to you. Where do you get the best bang for the buck? Especially in terms of sockets, it's Proto and Koken. So sticking with Japanese-based stuff here, Koken, they kind of do things a little different. So we've got a quarter to 3/4, and you're thinking like, well, that's missing the big sockets, right? 13, 16, 7/8, and the Koken set does not include 11/32 either. But for their 9-piece set, quarter to 3/4, are you sitting down? $49. You're thinking like, whoa, that's like almost half of what the KTC one was. It was 50 less than Nepros. That's insane. And that, my friends, is why we have a crud ton of Koken sockets. The Koken sockets I've had for the longest amount of time out of this new batch of stuff. They seem to be holding up very well. They are a fantastic value. That said, we can't give them the pass there. We have to compare the 3 missing sockets. So in 11/32, if you got to have that, you're going to add $4.70. 13/16, obviously much bigger socket, $8.05. And then if you wanted to add a 7/8, you would spend an additional $8.40. And if you're like me and you got to have the 15/16, $8.85. So grand total to do all of that, you would come in at $79.75, which is still about $9 less than the KTC, which wouldn't include the 15/16, and it's significantly less than the 136 for the Nepros. That said, if you really want to have something to go home and write about, Proto. And this is why you see me bring Proto in, and I use it at work, and I have a ton of seat time with Proto going back decades, and that's why I'm willing to do that. Currently, it's not hard to find these prices. Proto, 1/4 to 1 inch. That's right, 15/16 included, 1 inch included. 1 inch socket. Don't hold me to this. I feel like Koken does something weird where they have shallow and not deep or something. Nepros, KTC, I'm not 100%. But anyway, Proto, 1/4 to 1 inch, $78. Yeah, you tell me. I don't believe that includes 11/32, but surely for $4 from Koken, if you got to have it, you can get by. But the thing with the Proto set, you can very easily get that for 10, 15, 20% off of that price, which that price is currently discounted, but you get to stack discounts. Check my videos on the Proto stuff we brought in to learn more about that, but that gives you some comparison here. So the Proto 1/4 to 1 inch is basically almost half the price of a railed default set of Nepros sockets. However, just a little bit more than that, $28 more. I did this, and the only difference here, the 1 inch, which I'm not too concerned about that. It fits filters, I know. We've got 1 inch sockets we can get by with. But it's mainly just the exploration and the fit and the finish here. So, I guess sticking with stats for nerds here, at the top of the list, 3/8 by 1/4. Koken is $4.70. Nepros, whether it was discounted or not, I'm not sure, but $8.30 is what we paid. Let's see here. We'll jump now to 3/8. Koken is $4.70. Nepros was $7.05. Note that that's cheaper than the smaller socket. Again, warehouse sale prices came into play there. 9/16, since I talk about it in 3/8 hardware all the time. Koken $5.90. DRPD, I don't think this one was discounted. $10.35, almost double, if you will. If we come into 3/4, $6.55 Koken versus $7.80 Nepros. Interesting thing here, the 13/16, but you know, it's like 440 spark plug type stuff, 9/16 volts. You would have 805 Koken. It was 10 cents cheaper at Nepros with this pricing. 7/8, pretty good size socket, 840 Koken, 880 Nepros. Again, warehouse sale pricing probably at play there. 15/16, it's just about $4 more to go Nepros than Koken. So that's what you need to know. If you're looking for the best bang for your buck, Proto, Koken, very hard to go wrong there. With the additional discounts, it's really hard to go wrong with Proto. If you want American-made, Proto is for the conceivable future, and for the very, very recent and distant past, almost impossible to beat. Sometimes the prices I've got on that stuff is like Harbor Freight-esque or better, and it's quality American-made stuff. In terms of Japanese sockets, Koken is just significantly less, especially than Nepros. KTC, you can come in and they're comparable, but Koken is almost always going to be less. Expect sales to impact that. If for some reason there was just a KTC blowout sale on DRPD, you might very well get that less than Koken. All that aside, you now have information. When you see these sockets, you can say that is totally worth it, or you can say, hey, you know, I'm very intrigued by these, but I missed the sale, $50 less for KTC that I want to try, I'll do that. Then if I like the sockets, if they perform well for me over X time span, I'm waiting for a sale and I will commit to Nepros. Same thing, if you're like, KTCs were okay, but the Kokens are half, I'm going to go that route and try them. You get to formulate your own opinions, right? That's the beauty of this. What I want to do here, though, I have to give a shout out. Their packaging has always been like this. Spinners, the extensions, everything we've gotten from Nepros is sort of Koken style with the zip bags, right? What I want to highlight, though, is just what we see here. You've got kind of the yellow font, which is really cool. It pops on that black backdrop. It's sort of like a 90s screensaver splatter paint marbling type of thing. 9.5 square. Every tag's going to say that. What is that? Think of it as 3/8 drive, my friend. That's all you need to know. 15/16. That is, of course, our fractional imperial SAE size. The part number, NB3-15/16. That is what you would type in at DRPD, on a web search, if you're black shipping through Japan, whatever you're doing, that is the standalone part number. And spoiler alert, take NB3, okay, and plug it in front of whatever fractional size you want, and you'll get there, all right? So, there's some Japanese there, obviously, that we cannot translate. I'll just assume it says something similar to what's here, or super cool, and we'll roll with that. Okay, back here on the back, is there anything of interest to us? Not that I can translate for you, aside from, again, the NB3-15/16 part number and made in Japan. There's a standalone SKU. Sometimes these are a pain to open, sometimes they're not. I think this is the one that I was oohing and awing when I had free time. And this, my friends, is what we've got. It is just beautiful. And it's kind of crazy. So right there again, the mirror polish, this is absurd. This is above and beyond. This is something that many people would not want to use because it's more like art than something that you would want to screw up. But when have you looked down the well of a socket and seen it that well? I'm ignoring the outside, which you could basically use to pluck hairs from your nose if you wanted to. But look at the inside. I mean, that is absurd, to get a reflection of the opposing wall of the socket. And then the finish out there. With our KTCs, I was happy to see that they hit my check boxes, right? One of those things is I want stamping, right? Laser etching is nice, but it has to have stamping first. This could be a little bit bigger, but due to the design of the socket, it's kind of mitigated to this point. Obviously, it's a little safer here than it is up top, so I understand the decision. Right there, you got NB3-15/16, and we have got, what does that say, KTC Japan. Rolling it around, you've got the Nepros branding, again, beautifully executed. This is the one of the business ends, right? And that is chamfered. I love that. That is what I want. I want to see that the anvil, or whatever I'm chucking it up on, is going to glide and position itself into place. As best I know, I can't recall what Nepros calls their technology, but again, even with a 12 point, which people just never seem to understand, there's been advances, right? Okay, so where that's kicked out just a little bit, what is that for? That is to grab the flats of the fastener. It's not going to round the corners, or be less likely to. They do that in 12 points as well across all reputable brands. It's been like that for a while. But people still have that like old timer stuff where, you know, 12 points was for 12 point or square, and you use 6 point for 6 point. There's a reason I like 12 point, and it's not because it rounds fasteners, all right? You know, maybe if it's a crappy fastener, you know, like grade 2 Chinesium, okay, yeah, well, guess what? This is going to do it too. Anything's going to round that off. But with a decent grade fastener, decent quality fastener, it's really not an issue. But the big thing here is just, good lord, the finish out on these is fantastic. I'm not going to make you sit here and watch me open all of those, but we'll start here with the NBR390A. Sad that I can spit those part numbers out, isn't it? And, this is not the compact spinner. The reason these anvils, and I promise you, this is used a lot, and the reason the anvil is meant, I never take this off. The only time this comes off is when I put it on something else, okay? What I'm going to do is plug this onto the spinner, because again, that is how I would use it. And there we go. Very, very tight finish. Fits about... The fit here is absurd, alright, and that's what we're really concerned about. That's like... Going this way, there is no play, and it was like rock solid. Okay, coming, yeah. Alright, as you might have guessed, the battery died right in the middle of our fitment test, and I was kind of laying this out. I didn't figure I'd use it for a thumbnail, but I did space them perfectly, and I just thought this was really cool, and you should see it. So, now I'm going to go recharge the battery some more while I unpack these sockets so you don't have to sit through that. And just like that, we have another scenic backdrop for you to enjoy. And I will say, my interest is piqued. KTC, of course. Yeah. We got a really cool, kind of old school box, right? But with Nepros, I have to wonder, had we have bought the set, either direct from them or through DRPD, what would the presentation be like? This is something I've never seen. I'm sure somebody's probably unboxed one somewhere. It's typically Ratchets that you see, but you know, I've got to wonder, based on what they do with the Ratchet presentation, I don't know if they would share the box concept with KTC and it's just individually bagged sockets. I don't know if they would be pre-populated on a rail and bagged, kind of like Koken in a box. I'm kind of wondering. I don't know that they would do this, but it would be super cool. Again, you'd have to get a set and not be an El Cheapo like me, but imagine the Ratchet box, and you take the lid off, and you have a foamed tray, all right, all your sizes. That would be interesting. I may have to investigate that tonight. But before we were so rudely interrupted, I had this big spinner, the old spinner, with the big socket, the 15/16, and we were checking out the play. I will say, quite difficult to get that on there. Trying to turn left and right is very, very tight. However, now she's like a rock. So there's a little bit there, but that's just, again, turning. I thought it was going to have axial. No, it's pretty freaking solid. All right, so let's put this back where it belongs. And there we are. The interesting thing, that spinner kind of has taper to it. So again, seeing this is a legit combination trio from Nepros. You got the socket, you got the spinner, and you've got the ratchet. It would be cool if they made like a low profile iteration, or one that kind of tucked the socket up a little bit better. As is, this does add, I'd say, I wouldn't say significant, but measurable and concerning length depending on what you're doing. But just look at that. So cool. If you haven't noticed, one of the selling points again on this spinner is the rubber ring. You typically have like ribs or knurling or some sort of machine finish to kind of facilitate turning it. That feature that you see present here, it's also, if you've never really paid close attention down here, that's not like a color band, that's literally the black rubber band. So what I mean by color band, I guess that's a bad choice of words. I don't mean it's like colored, ink-filled, painted. That's a band of rubber, just like you have here, so it provides good dexterity. Same thing on these sockets. Now, a lot of times, you know, I've kind of grown, even with Koken, which kind of makes no sense because of the redundancy of the spinner, but I've gotten, in part thanks to Nepros, to where I really like having the spinners in place. And that's what this rubber ring is doing. It's kind of, if again, say you didn't have one, it provides that grip surface, right? A lot of times you'll kind of see like a just machined finish again. Maybe it's as simple as ribs, maybe it's two bands, maybe it's a band, a filled in circle, and then another band. This is rubber. That's literally a rubber ring, and it provides just another gripping surface for you. So instead of having this, like, imagine trying to grab this, the mirror polished, right? That same finish is here. However, with the rubber, you'll see that's kind of like your natural holding point. So if you had a freak situation and you're just trying to get something started, you can kind of feel it with this before you like go and ruin your day, you know, by tearing up some thread somewhere. You just kind of check fitment here, or maybe it's just as simple as you've got this attached to the ratchet, which let's do that right now. 15/16 on the 3/8 NBR390A. So again, Nepros versus Koken in terms of ratchet, this is pretty legit. I will tell you, it is very, very nice. The more you use it, the more I kind of think you get accustomed to it. The back drag on the Koken is sort of off on its own somewhere, right? This is close, this is approaching that. But even with the Kokens, I find myself liking the spinner. However, this accomplishes the same thing, right? So whether you're sitting here and you can't get the fastener to turn out anymore, then you just come in and you spin it, right, by hand, run it out the rest of the way. Sometimes if you've got odds and ends, right, with gummed up fasteners, you might get it to that point where the ratchet stops working and then you're spinning it by hand, trying to get it out really, really fast, a 1-to-1 ratio, and then it gums up again and you're like, you know, your fingers are digging in tighter and nothing's happening. And then you have to come back in, you know, with some leverage and go to town. That's just sort of what that band accomplishes. So what I want to do now, we're going to grab, you can't see it, we're going to grab this, the beautiful blue ion plated NBR390. This is not the A, so this one is a chunk compared to that guy. And what I mean is the weight. 10-year redesign of this ratchet. You're like, well, it's the same thing, it's just not blue. Very, very subtle, very fine tolerances, a complete redux, if you will, and I do use redux intentionally. This one really was used. It was used on the Mopar 10, and then I just got to the point I was terrified of ruining it, because this is probably still the most beautiful ratchet I have ever seen. That said, it allows us to do this. We're going to take a more modest socket. This is going to be the 11/16. Tuck that sucker in, and what I mean by that is there's not, ooh, hey, 15/16 over here. Super, super nice. Again, here, that rubber ring, again, comes into play. Lots of sockets you're going to see that feature on. Not rubber, but, you know, some sort of texture or grip edge or something. Some of them are just total smooth walls. My Craftsman, old school stuff, SK sometimes has ribs. Proto, shouldn't say ribs, but rather machined indentations. But it's kind of a cool little feature there. And again, as best I can think, it is unique to Nepros. So coming in next, let's grab this guy. It's a little bit longer and a flex head, and it is sporting the thing that never comes off, which is the compact spinner. Again, we've kind of showcased these. That is hopefully very apparent to see the differences where, let's plug this back on if we can. Again, quick release for the win. Right here. If I tuck that in, see how you can see that? The OD here is greater than the OD edge there. Well, this is not. This is kind of like streamlined. It's just right here. Note how I can articulate it. And with this one, it's of course articulated because it's so much bigger. But with a compact spinner, we'll now come in. Let's just go Goofy Town here and run 15/16 again. This is just the biggest socket we've got. You kind of get two grip edges there, which is nice. I'm sort of course, it would be more dexterous if I had this hand non-gloved. But yeah, super cool. I will say the band is noticeably wider, thicker, whatever you want to call it, here on the spinner than the socket. This is almost perfect on the spinner. This is nice, very nice touch, but I almost wish it had this width. That's just me, again, no real world usage with these sockets, so we can't really speak on that. But just here on a bench impression, that would be one thing I'd love to see. We're going to come in here and we have the 1/2 inch. This sucker will be used a lot. Very nice. And again, down here, you can sort of create, you know, like a different length of a socket when you're using the spinners like this. Again, some are thinner, some are stupid thin, some are quite clumsy. But just for the sake of doing it, here is our flex head with the 1/2 inch drive socket. Just look at that. The function's there, you know, but just the sheer aesthetics of that is ridiculous. So let's pop this off, throw that back down. What I want to do now, just because we have it, and why not bust the thing out, is the NEXT. This thing has taken the NBR390A's revisions and taken weight loss to an extreme. Yes, you could totally tether that, but it's just a cool deal. I have used this, not a ton. I should probably force myself to, but we have lots of options, and I'm constantly trying to, behind the scenes, compare and contrast and figure out what I like. We'll grab 7/16 here. This is a big one for me. It is quarter 20 stuff, right? Quarter. I use this size a ton, both at work and at home. I've got tons fasteners right over here off the mat. There is a lot of quarter 20 stuff. Nuts, nylocks, flats, fenders, you name it. It's quarter 20. It is used in a ton of what I do. Now, this is a different finish, right? This is not quite the same mirror polish that you see on the other ratchets. That said, it's still abominably good looking. So, let's throw that down. Let's get the blue ion plated back here just because I love it. Here it is with 7/16. The one regret, I've said this every time, I really wish that I would have bought like the sets or the sockets. At the time, wasn't that long ago, that seemed so absurdly high to me. And you know, it's one of those deals. I passed it up. I wish I wouldn't have, but I guess you could still hit like the secondhand market, resellers, eBay, scalpers. You know, some dude with awesome stuff passed away and somebody's selling it off. But it is what it is. Artisan golds out there, that may be more popular. To me, that is perfection. If I could get every tool I use done that way, I would do it for a reasonable price. But it's super cool. I absolutely love it. Let's set that back down. What I want to do here is we need to do some comparisons. Now with KTC, again, we think the same profile, don't know for certain. I'm not sure what all would be different. This is all I can offer us, is their deep 3/8 drive SAE sockets. This is 7/8. It's the biggest from that set. I do that if you're like, man, why do you always pick these 15, 16s, and 7/8? For video purposes, it's easier for you to see it, right? As opposed to if I grabbed quarter. If I was getting most used, it would probably be 9/16. But just in terms of I want you to see this, the bigger the better, right? So 7/8 here. Again, obviously shallow versus deep. Recall back if you're thinking, good Lord, is this like stubby or something? Remember, we found that these were considerably longer length than our other sockets. I would assume Nepros is the same way. But right here, the 7/8, this is what I want to see, is this sidewall. This looked like a chunk of a sidewall to me. If we hold these up, yeah, there's going to be... Now, this could be deep versus shallow. You know, if I had the KTC shallows here, maybe it's the same thing. But if I try to even this out, the OD on the deep is a bit bigger. So is Nepros streamlined, kind of taken down to an extreme? Or is it just KTC is a workhorse, industrial grade type of a fastener? This is Proto and Right versus like Snap-on. I don't know. I don't understand the dichotomy there. I'm sure they publish it. Whether that's available in English, I do not know. But I have to tell you, me looking down at this, again, ignoring the fact that this is like mirror polished and this is not, this looks significantly thicker. I don't think there's any point in measuring that. I think you're going to have to agree with me. And then again, just the fact I'm able to stand this up edge to edge and there's still that lip there confirms that. Okay, this end right here, I love what they've done on both. This is a little bit more aggressive of a fitment there, which means this should be a little bit tighter of a fit. And again, if we line these up, the 7/8 and the 7/8, ignoring the ribbing and the rubber, I think the Nepros, even though again this does neck down as does this one, and they don't seem to be coming to the same diameter there, so Nepros, at least versus the deep form factor, seems to be streamlined a little bit. Now, again, this isn't a great comparison if you're like, what are you doing, idiot? Well, again, KTC versus Nepros, sort of their run-of-the-mill industrial heavy-duty standard versus their ultra high-end. Okay, that's what that comparison was about. In terms of Japanese stuff here, what do I have to offer you in shallow? Koken. This is a Koken 7/8, as you can see there. This is the 6-point, relatively clean still. I do think I was trying to bust. I won't say. You can probably guess what 7/8 goes on, and you'll go to town there. The deep one obviously has a bit more wear if we were to pull it out. But looking at the profiles here, again, Koken, very nice finish out in the wells and everything, but the Nepros is just absurd. Sidewall here, again, insanity to the max. Again, I'm someone, I might be in the minority, especially here in America, but I actually do prefer this type of a finish, the satin. I don't like, like 90s Peterbilt in your face, in certain situations, yes, but even I, someone that prefers this, and Hazet and Stahlwille and the not shiny chrome that people, seem to have a disdain for in America, this is still freaking awesome right here. I mean, this is how chrome should be. I think this is how chrome may have used to be. It's done the right way. It's just beautiful to behold. Now, wait, this is 15/16 dadgum. Let me get the 7/8 here. And the Koken is taller. Now, keep in mind, this is standard. This is not Z series. Those things are tiny, tiny. Unfortunately for me, they don't really have an SAE iteration that I can show you. In terms of the openings here, these are going to be very, very close. Not something my fingers can discern well. If we were to mic them, I would say that the Nepros is actually a little thinner. Then, of course, on the taper, if we get that side together, eerily close there. I'm going to call that one a wash. And if I look down the barrel of these, I think we can see the difference. The Koken just has a larger step up to the well of the socket and then more aggressive down cut, if you will. Whereas with the Nepros, it's just not as pronounced. So I do think if this drive side, ratchet mount is roughly the same, this is significant. You got to remember, there's this side and the other side if you were to mic it. And I think that's what we're seeing there. So, interesting heights there. I might have to try and buy a deep, or I don't know. I might have to actually email Mike and try to do this as economically as possible. I would like to get a deep Nepros or a shallow KTC so we can sort of like compare and contrast there. Let me make sure. Again, the 7/8 there. I'm not sure if I had the 15/16 or not. Yeah. Good stuff. It's looking like the Nepros may come in at kind of a neat length for us. If we step down again now to something smaller, we can do this. Got a treat for you here. Okay. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But from humble beginnings come great things, right? Looking back, and this was my primary set for years. And they did not come with a spring steel rail. I went out and I bought this. I remember distinctively. My mom drove me to Sears. I don't know, I was like 15 or 16 or something. Probably 15 if she was driving. And I went in specifically to buy socket rails. This is it. And you're thinking like, whoa, that's a cool finish. Well, yeah, that's Craftsman USA there, okay? And if you're thinking like, man, that's a lot of 3/8 drive sockets, dude. What is this, a master set of some sort? Well, it's 6-point and 12-point. Again, little old me back in the day, why divide your 6 and your 12 on 2 rails that cost money when you could just put them all on the same rail? And that's what I did. This set does some funky things, like you get to a certain point right here. The cutoff, I think, was 3/4. And then everything included above that was only 12-point. Okay, I don't know what gunk is on that 7/8 one, but so 12-point and 6-point. And what I want to do is grab the 9/16. Where's the one? Was it the 12-point or the 6-point that I've arced? I feel like it would have been 6. I don't know, but we're gonna set that. Yeah, this is it, man. I mean, this really is the early days of me. This is what I was using at home all the time. So, this little gem right here, just to confirm, for the doubters or the people that are younger and have never seen such a thing, 9/16 Craftsman. made in USA. This was part of a big set that came in my rally box. Again, I do actually, like, when I do a job, I stuff rags. I didn't have blue shop rags back then. I just had red ones. I know I say rags, it's more of the Scott shop towel. But I always, when I did a job, I would stuff a red rag down every socket and clean it. I always took pride in keeping things clean. Super aggressive. I mean, look at that. Like, maybe this is where I get my preference from. That is just insane. I mean, we could put duct tape on the inside of there, and we could, like, you could give your cat a drink or something. That is a very impressive bowl that they've got there. I haven't had to use these in a while. I still reach in there from time to time, but we've gotten some newer, more exciting things. But these are always there should we need them. But what I want to do here is compare and contrast with the 9/16 Nepros. So I'm going to say that is almost identical, okay, in terms of an OAL. Sidewall here, very hard to say. Again, I'm not going to drag this out, like mic everything. Kind of want to say the Nepros is a little thinner. Again, look at that. That is something. Here on this end, where the Nepros is neck down, it is considerably smaller than the old Craftsman. We can get that to kind of dial in the focus for you. Hopefully you can tell, and again, that's because this sidewall is straight. There's nothing going on there. This one is not straight. It tapers down, necks down. We have the rubber ring. The Craftsman's, I've got nothing. Okay, think of the Stahlwilles, think of the Hazets, think of the Gador. This is just, it's a socket, man. It's a sidewall, it's smooth, it was cost effective and functional. It's what it was, right? So not a terrible little setup there. What we need to do now, anytime we bring in sockets, in addition to comparing and contrasting them with some things, we like to check the fitment. And while we're on it, we're going with this guy, right? What does he go with? He goes with those Craftsman sockets I just showed you. And quick release, again, this guy has seen some things, let me tell you. But let's come in right here. I believe we grab the 7/16. We're going to chuck her up. That fits really good. This is just not a ratchet I'm accustomed to using anymore. We have made some advancements in our little arsenal since this was the daily driver. So cool to look back on it, kind of see where we came from. And the best thing, many of you, especially if you're my age, probably have the same set or had the same set, still have the same set. If you're a little older than me, you probably used these, had them, whether it was work, cheap set, throw in your truck type of a thing. If you're younger, maybe your parents harken back to when they had Craftsman, and maybe they just bought you gear wrench or whatever was cheapest or the biggest set or the best value at the time. But for a long period of time, it was Craftsman. And the best thing there, again, if we flip this over, this is all US made, man. So again, we can laugh at these now, in comparison with some of the things I've got from the world, and, way, way, way more advancements than we had then. The bottom line, those served me well, they're still functional, and they can still serve me well. So, who's laughing now, right? It's one of those things, yeah, sure, this is super flashy, that's an absurd, beautiful ratchet, this is insanity, 72 tooth, 90 tooth, lots of changes since this little thing, but by gosh, it's still here. I've nearly blown up a car with it, but it's still here, and that's impressive in its own right. So coming in right here, we will grab the long KTC Roto. Why? Same company. And we'll go right here, 3/8 for you, right? That is beautiful. This, again, compact head. That is really cool. This does look Koken Z-Series-esque, I will say. Right here, where, again, you don't necessarily have that Koken back drag, a little rubber ring is nice, again, especially without a glove on. Throwing down over here, we have got... What did I do with it? Had a Stahlwille somewhere, I thought. I don't see it. I specifically grabbed a quick release to contrast with a non-quick release Hazet. We'll grab this socket for some love, 11/16. lower shock bolt, A, B, and E body Mopar. That is fantastic fitment. And again, just reaching around here, Hazet. These break in a lot better than I think people realize. You should see my ones at work, but if you run Koken, if you run even like dual 80 snap-on stuff, these are a little stiffer, right? That's where your spinners, your rubber rings, to Hazet's credit, you know, the double ring on the socket come in. Let's now, not sure what I did with that Stahlwille. 1 second. It was right in its happy spot in the toolbox. Let's get this, which is 5/8. Oh yeah, great fitment there. Stahlwille 1/4 and 3/8 are insanely good. They're 1/2 inch. I don't know. Again, behind the scenes, you know, this is why nothing's really worn out. I have a lot of options, and I love using them all. I'll just come out, what do I want to do now? And I've got choices. Whereas this was my option. It was the option in 3/8. Okay, so this is a fantastic little life for me, and I greatly enjoy just something as simple as like, oh, you know, what ratchet should we use today? And it makes me happy. I get to test and experiment with things. This excellent fitment. Again, Hazet and Stahlwille, fantastic. Here's one you might be more interested in if you're watching this video, and that would be Koken. There's a relative newcomer here. This is the long 3/8 quick release. That's right. Great fitment there. Again, you could kind of use the rubber ring versus the spinner. Nothing at all to complain about. Really, really solid fitment. If I come in here and we get the same length there, non-quick release flex head. This one's taken over almost. I don't know that it's seen more use than the shorter flex because I've had that one way longer, but this is kind of the go-to here. Just fantastic. Everything about it fan-frickin-tastic. So let's come back in here to the NEXT. You know, that might actually have more play than it did on the Koken, believe it or not. Let's grab the flex head here. I will say, going from some of the stuff I've been using to this one is glidely smooth, and that's not great for video purposes, but it's just that little nylock thing there. Huh. This seems to have more, you know, side-to-side play than I would say we had with our Stahlwille or our Hazet. Like here, when I'm moving it, like the whole thing is moving, right? The whole anvil, but it's not moving as much. Let's get the Hazet back up here. Again, specifically did not select the HPS for a little different contrast. Let me get the NEXT again. Yeah, there's just more play in that fitment there. Let's do this and kind of see where we're at. Well, that's a lot. Obviously, again, deeper. You're going to see that for sure. But, heck, just for the heck of it. Okay, yeah. I don't know what it is with the mechanism in the Nepros ratchet. There's just more axial play, right? Versus what we've got with these. So do with that info what you will. Let's get the NBR390A here, and we'll grab the 11/16. Yeah, excellent fitment, no issues there. It's just in terms of noticed play. That's more than with these other ratchets that we chose to showcase. Now, just to be fair, let's go back to this one. Yeah. So, not quite Craftsman pairing with the Nepros socket, but it is what it is there. So, kind of think we've showcased what we need to. Again, covered all the prices, got the boring stuff for you, kind of showed you some different options if you wanted to go that route. Busted out some old friends. But what if I told you we are not done? That's right. These kind of need to clear the scene here. But I just couldn't pass this up. All right. Ouch. Right here. What do we have? We've got the KTC Deeps minus the 7/8, and we've got them on this socket rail. Again, surprisingly decent. That was something design-wise I hadn't seen before, which is why it's here. But I told you, I was cheap, and I pieced this socket set together, 1/4 to 15/16 with the skips I wanted on warehouse sale pricing, standalone sockets. However, there is a Nepros equivalent to this red pegged deal that you see there, and I don't recall if it was on a discount or not, but I do know I paid $22.75 for it. And what is it, you ask? What does it look like? Is it the same thing? What fool would do that? You must really like that if it's the same thing. It is not the same thing. It is in this bag. There you see the yellow font on the black, again, 90s splatter paint marbled backdrop. This is, again, what did I tell you that means? 9.5 square, think 3/8. This, of course, is their part number. It's NE HB315. You're looking at that and you say, okay, hey, so KTC was red, which you said there were colors, if I recall. Nepros looks to be kind of a silver mirror glittery finish, which makes sense. Look at this, though. Discerning eyes, even with the glare from the shop, might notice something. If you've seen these, if you have them, you probably know. But for everyone else, some of you may have just caught something. And I did give you a hint of what it might be. But let's go ahead and pop this out. So, right here, we're going to take a gander at the back side. You've got your little set screw. Again, that's going to hold the rails in place. If you needed to take clips off, add clips, what have you. 1/4, 3/8, half, do they all interchange? Do they maintain this profile? I'm not 100% sure. I kind of want to say that they do, but don't hold me to that. Right there, beautifully executed. You got Nepros KTC Japan. Let's try to a little closer for you. Hopefully you can read that. Again, this is awkward length, so I'm having to kind of put it in an angle for you. But look at that kind of like satin chrome look. It almost looks like it would be textured. It's got the nice kind of like glittery stuff. And you're like, okay, well, just get the rail out and put some sockets on it for us, man. All right. This is where now some of you will hopefully see what I'm talking about. And you're like, oh man, that is, you got to get that dust off of there. It's like really shiny. Looks like it came out of a machine shop. They're grinding by it or something. No. That is there by design. This looks an awful lot like their plier handles. Again, I don't have a pair. I've come close to buying them several times. I always talk myself out of it, or they're out of stock. There's kind of that, like, it's almost like a galaxy black. And what I mean by that, like, it's almost looking starry night. All right? That is not, well, it could be. But they've done something when they manufacture these, intentionally and by design, to give that sort of like silver glitter effect to your socket peg holder. You'll also note these do not slide near. I guess they slide fairly well. I thought they had more grip than the red ones down there. But look at that. This is just kind of like a rubber plug. Let me get our smallest socket to 1/4. I'm weird. I have to have the size face out. I want you to get to see this as well. Try to get it to focus. Do I not have it? I do. So there it's on. There it's off. I don't know how long that will hold up. It's like a friction fit on what feels like kind of like a rubber-esque tab. It's like a, I don't know what it would be. I want to say rubber, but it could just be like a plastic or something. But it's got a little give to it, right? And that's what allows the socket to rip off and the socket, listen closely, to press on, right? And then you can see like I can sort of twist the socket on the material. So I don't know. I feel like this would be more durable than the plastic clips on the KTC. I don't trust anything plastic with vertical uprights. It's not like cohesive. Those are divided. I get why they do it. They compress, they retract, right, for your fitment. Seem to be fine. Couple winters, couple summers, sit outside, catch some rays. I don't know how that might impact it. I feel like this would be more robust than that long term. But if you're constantly pulling off the 9/16 socket, I feel like this might wear down. The good news is you can buy standalone pegs. I'm pretty confident these would interchange. But the other thing I can tell you, especially right now, solid. I'm gonna come in here and get the 15/16, the biggest I've got. Here's a different angle of fitment. You get the idea. It is not going to come off of this thing. So I'm going to populate this, show it to you. We'll wrap this up. I do hope you've enjoyed this. Again, it's really cool to go from Craftsman right here, right, to stuff from all over the globe. In case of Nepros, very expensive stuff from all over the globe. And like I said, I genuinely do enjoy this. I like bringing it in, checking it out, seeing it, comparing it, contrasting it, using it, comparing the real world performance versus, you know, expectations versus other brands. All that is going on in the background. We will eventually shift to more videos of that nature. But for now, it's just, this is awesome. Just seeing that, kind of the full completion set here. Real quick, since I can, we'll put these up end to end here. And again, as best I know, both of these are actually made in Japan. I wouldn't be shocked if they were done in Taiwan, but I want to say they are Japan. This is quite difficult to balance, but end to end, that's what I'm trying to showcase. They're identical. The gaps, I can't imagine them being different, so I feel like if you went in and you're like, you know what, I really like those Nepros, but I can't bring myself to use them, I'm just going to use that set I got, and I'm going to go KTC and be cheap. Or, you know what, man, I just love these freaking rails. I want to say the things would interchange, right? So if you have some color code system where you're just going to have a tiny, tiny rail and put something together and you wanted whatever colors KTC has of these, you could color code stuff. The sky is the limit. I won't waste your time explaining that to you, but really, really cool stuff. So give me a second here. We'll get this thing pieced together, check it all out, wrap the video up, and take it from there. Alright, so there it is. The rail is fully populated, and good lord, does it look nice. Again, just absurd finish out on all Nepros products we've ever brought in. The rail actually very, very cool. Again, you get the idea. Pretty solid. It's this whole set, now that I have it like in hand, it is surprisingly lightweight. It is a featherweight in comparison to this chunky thing, right? This is almost like grabbing a set of rights or something. So these sort of tandem up together, okay? It would be way better visually if we had these oriented tall in the back, short in the front, right? But I liked our KTC Roto ratchets and our Nepros ratchets well enough. I kind of wanted to complement them, dress them out, fully equip them for success with their specific parent company sockets, right? Sort of no sacrilege, no Stahlwille socket, you know, on a Nepros ratchet, just KTC and Nepros with KTC and Nepros. Clearly what we've done, 3/8 shallow, 3/8 deep, SAE, it's what I do, it's what I prefer. Most of you, this would be like metric stuff, and for me, I like to stay in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And so this, as odd as it may seem to you, is my most frequently used. Bonus benefit, it's the same way at work. Everything is like old school SAE, so you know, if I want to expedite testing, I just take this to work and it's plug and play for me. The thing I realized as I was starting to clean up and put up is we did not do one of the things I had wanted to do, which is this. All right, we ripped off the 11/16, so we're going to take this. That is a Nepros extension. That is really cool looking. It's also very lightweight. We will now take our NBR390A with the spinner, Look at that. Now, ignoring the play here, which is kind of in the ratchet, like this is very, very solid. You can kind of come up with some crazy lengths and setups there. What I want to do now, this is a Wobble extension. And again, at the time that I ordered this, I did not know this was like a Wobble Plus, meaning you get your Wobble, but you also have it locked like a standard extension. If that was 11/16, so this should be 3/4. We'll go full straight there. Now, Wobble. Again, just seeing that extension. A Nepros extension with a Nepros socket. That is crazy to look at. And luckily, we were able to get this stuff cheap through the warehouse sale. Otherwise, we probably would not be making this video right now. But dadgum, that is some good looking stuff. Again, with the KTC Rotos, I like these ratchets a lot. Alright, so being able to run the deeps and the shallows is kind of the dream setup there. Will we like them better than our Kokens? Time will tell, right? I will tell you, and this is kind of the buzzkill part, this is not what I would have done if I could easily do what I wanted to do in a perfect world. But this is about as good as it gets. So, not gonna lie, if I was just coming in and going to get sockets to pair with KTC Rotos and the Nepros ratchets and maybe KTC standard ratchets if we can ever get them, I would have gone semi-deep and I would have gone 12-point. Again, seems weird to some of you, others of you relate and get it. What I'm doing there, I'm basically buying one socket instead of shallow and deep, right, which hopefully it works out for me. I am also using the 12-point, giving myself better access. I use 12-point fasteners, I really do. Obviously 6-point means nothing there. I've covered ad nauseum that 12 points are advanced, past the point people think they are, right? 12-point also works for square stock, which are square fasteners. You know, think of an old lathe or something, which I do some of that, especially at work. You know, not here at the house, not as much, but every once in a while I run across something. And 12-point fits the bill. I would have one socket, it would be that, and for everyone else, I would do metric. So I would have SAE and metric, semi-deep, 12-point, and that would kind of be the ultimate setup here. This is very expensive, the Nepros route. Okay, I don't want to do what I did with Koken and go like crazy, balls to the wall, full complement of sockets, master setup, shallow, semi-deep, deep in 6-point and 12-point. I would try to kind of stretch my dollar. The thing is, DRPD, and I'm sure Mike would bring these in, I haven't asked him, but they have semi-deep Nepros, for those of you wondering. You're like, oh, hey, this guy's right. I was always going to do Nepros, but I couldn't think of like buying the deep and the shallow, but I would try the semi-deep. Metric, he has those in stock. I think they're sets, and I think they're individual as well. SAE, they do exist. They actually do exist. He just doesn't stock them yet. That might be something he adds. Again, I'm pretty sure we could like, hey man, can you bring these in? And either he'd get them for me or in for you if you were to ask, or he'd be like, oh hey, there's actually some people who want to buy this, and he'd just start stocking them or at least advertising them, type of a thing. As it was, this set of KTC's deep we procured very cheap. Okay, same thing, building this set, we did it very cheap. So that's kind of my justification. And the other thing that did versus me going Nepros semi-deep and Nepros semi-deep, this lets me see the KTC. And these are beautiful, the shallows. The semi-deeps are going to be beautiful. The deeps would undoubtedly be beautiful. The thing is, the deeps, just like with the German sockets, the price goes way up. And, especially now that like I've got really cool stuff and really good stuff, it's harder to like, oh hey, well let's just go crazy here. I like to experiment, I like to try, I like to compare and contrast, but at the same time, like, I'm not loaded. Like, I don't really travel, I don't eat out, I don't smoke, drink, waste money on women. Like, this is what I do for fun. cars and tools. Okay, but even with that, you know, like this stuff to me, again, you saw the humble beginnings of the Craftsman rally box, you know. There comes a point where it's like there's a lot I would love to do. It's kind of like this. I would love to have done that. I really do kick myself for not doing it, but at the same time, it just seemed too high. It was too crazy, right? I guess I'm like slightly better off than I was then, and like if that presented itself and it was like the standard price it was, I was like, I'm doing it. Or I would have brought something in, see if I like the color of it, and then be like, oh, good Lord, this is super cool. I don't think I'll find anything cooler than that ever. Would have pulled the trigger, right? But with the Nepros stuff, I really do want to get like a deep, maybe not 15/16, but you know, like 9/16, half, something I'll use 7/16 if it's considerably cheaper, just to know like how does it compare to this. Bothers me not knowing. All right, so that would be awesome. The same thing again, I'd like to get a KTC 3/8 shallow that I can compare to the Nepros and just be like, oh wow, look what they do different, or here it is side by side. If I could find it in the catalog, you know, like the Nepros, the weight shaved down from this machining process, the sidewall is X millimeters thicker and thinner, you know, etc. I'd like to make videos like that and showcase like, hey, you know, yes, the KTC is cheaper, but aside from the beautiful finish, this is the advantage of Nepros. Like I said, buying sets to do that is crazy. All right, especially again, like I've got the Koken cart. Okay, that thing is like, it's awesome and it's stacked. And 3/8, that's kind of like my happy spot here, messing with cars, you know. And we've got like the dream setup there. It's fantastic. Outside of like getting weird sizes, you know, that I don't encounter just because they exist in socket form. It's like, it's awesome. And this is all just like bonus. It's like ice cream on top of the cake after you've already had cake and ice cream, you know. So I want to use it. I want to get it, compare and contrast it. I mean, who knows? I might wind up liking this stuff better than Koken. I might like it better than Hazet. I don't know until I've used it and played around with it. But in a perfect world, if the prices, the sales lined up and it was in stock type of a thing, I would have gone semi-deep. I've been an advocate for that. If I was just getting into, say, Koken, for example, or, you know, if like the Mac guy, you know, if they had like something come out and it was like really good pricing, I might try to get by with a semi-deep set instead of buying shallow and deep. Now, sometimes you get screwed on semi-deep and they charge almost as much as deep, and you kind of have to watch things. But if you're set up with, say, Proto sockets and you're super happy with them, they just work, you know, they're not as pretty, they're not as exotic as brands X, Y, and Z, but they're functional. But you're like, man, I've seen all these Nepros videos from this guy and like 5 other people, and I just want to get something in and try it. NBR390A, and then you come in and you do the semi-deeps. You get, especially this is cool if, say, you were Proto and you had your shallows and your deeps, but you don't have a semi-deep, and then you can fill a void there. That's awesome. You know, that's like stretching. We're to a point, like I've gotten so much cool stuff. Like it's harder to find these like nooks and crannies where I'm like, aha, justified, right? And then the justification just becomes, I'm curious, I want to use it, I want to see it. Yeah, we make the videos. I can't really justify that because it in no way, shape, or form comes close to paying me back or like breaking even. Nothing. Just like these 2 socket sets is like multiple months if they're good on YouTube. So this is like something I genuinely enjoy doing, or we would have cut and run years ago. Okay. But yeah, that would have been my dream setup, is semi-deep SAE, semi-deep metric, 12-point. I don't care what the haters say about it. That's what I would have done. Then if I loved them, that's when I come in and I'm like, okay, let me sort this out. I'd probably go shallow and deep SAE before I did anything else metric. In part because we've got Koken Z series, which they don't make an SAE, you know, which is sorry to me, but I understand. Hopefully, again, every time I get an opportunity, I tell Koken, I'm like, hey, this would be great in SAE. Hopefully you do the same thing. But this is just cool, and that's the crux of it all. So with that said, if you have been down this road before, if you're the same mindset as me and you're like, oh well, KTC, I want to try, you probably bought Nepros before KTC, unless it's like some freak work deal. You got some guys like, KTC is killer, I was stationed in Japan, their stuff is awesome, it's a great price, it's what we're using at work, employees, here you go to town, and you're familiar with it that way. If you're just a regular person in today's age, you're probably going Nepros first. If you're weird like me, you're like, well, I wonder what the KTCs are like. And then you go, maybe you did deep Nepros, maybe you do shallow KTCs. But what I'm looking for is people with actual real world usage, not just for me. I'm committed already, right? These are here. This would be stuff I'd like to know before purchasing. But for people watching this, if you've been using KTC sockets in whatever scenario for like 15, 20 years, tell people. How do they hold up? What do you compare them to? Is Metric at work KTC and SAE is Right or Proto? What do you like better and why? Similarly, if you just say, I don't know, and you got to realize, like, Nepros wasn't very popular on YouTube until a couple years ago, but it's been around. Okay, there were people in this country, they don't make videos, YouTube wasn't in existence yet, but they've got Nepros sockets from, say, the mid-2000s. How are they now? Were they just like, I can't bring myself to use them, and they're sitting in your box untouched? Do you do like one clean task with them type of a thing to sort of like keep them in use? Are they conversation piece, or have you beat the ever-living snot out of them and you're like, you know what, they look awesome, but if you put them in real-world use, that mirror polish is gone, does not hold up. KTC, same way, those things crack the sidewall. That's the information that's not present in videos like this, and I can't give you that until I've had years and years and years of use. Now, if we start cranking on these and they suck, I'm going to come back and tell you. The better, more realistic option is we're going to use these, they're going to do fine, and it's going to just take more and more time, right? If something sucks, it usually doesn't last long. If something's good, it usually lasts a long time. So, in terms of the finish on the ratchets, I'd say this is the one that I use the most, and I don't even know if there's noticeable scuffs on it. Some new ratchets that were, there's a couple, but it's nothing major. Well, no, they kind of wipe off. So it's beat up a little bit. I mean, like, it's got scuffs and dings and everything, but like nothing, like you can see the lines there, but it's nothing like we haven't like chipped through the plating or something crazy. You know, it's just routine wear and tear for something of that usage. So if you have that real world experience, please share it. That's where you come in. It's your time to shine. All right. But for me, this is just awesome to see. Yes, these will be used. This one, no, I have officially retired Mr. Blue Ion plating because I would feel terrible if I did anything to ruin that exquisite finish. This one, it's awesome looking. It's beautiful. You can see yourself in the handle. I use it. Okay, I'm not going to be sad if it gets dinged up or chipped up. That's what its point is. Life to me now is to be used, to be enjoyed, and to see how it holds up, right? And hopefully, since they cost a little extra, they hold up beautifully and they maintain that luster, right? But we don't know until we experience it firsthand. So, as is though, both sockets I'm quite impressed with. Again, they kind of do things my way. They've got the stamping, they're oriented correctly, the stamping's not upside down, you know, like if you used a Hansen tray, this is what I like. So they kind of check all my boxes, and it's just a matter now of how do they perform over time. So, again, your thoughts and opinions are always appreciated. I will tell you, as a teaser, you have not seen the last of these. There's going to be something coming up that I've never seen anyone do. And it's going to be, I think, very, very cool. Might not be your cup of tea, but you might be able to tweak it and make it your cup of tea. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. I will also add, while I charge the battery out here, which is now blinking a red light at me again, I took apart a popular work light and totally like fixed the one thing that was wrong with it, and I might have to make a video on that. It's kind of a, I don't know, no-brainer, but you know, you wouldn't think it could be done type of a thing, but it is able to be done. So more on that later if we get the time, but for now it's like really late now. My feet are like ice. I'm gonna try to get inside, might edit this thing or something. But this is some cool stuff. Nepros, again, just like the ratchets, the sockets are just absurdly that's insane. You saw the Craftsman's, right? Like, these are just over the top, inside and out. It's insanity. And again, the weight on that is like nothing. With that said, though, thanks so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed. If you have not subscribed, I encourage you to do so. If you subscribe, you ring the bell, you jump your charger across the creek, YouTube just might notify you. We've currently got new videos every Wednesday and Saturday, 9 a.m. Texas time. With that said, thanks so much for watching, and I do hope I catch you back here for more action from the shop. Calendar number 9, it's bonus time. That is right. What do we got here? Some of you can see it, some of you might pass by until it slaps you in the face. And anyone that's a veteran viewer of the channel knows I can't leave well enough alone until we've engaged in debauchery of this nature. So, beautiful Nepros socket rail. It has those funky black with the silver luster clips. What is that abomination? That is the KTC clip and a KTC end. If we come up over here, you're like, well, hey, okay, so it looks like great news. Those will plug in. Let's say that you add more sockets. You're like, hey, you got 2 extensions and a spinner that might fit there. You're correct. KTC, if I come in right here, what do we have going on? You got your red clips. You've got this. I haven't tightened that. My apologies. But it fits. That's a Nepros clip. That's the Nepros end. It's very, very easy to execute that. You just need a screwdriver. Some of you will want your JIS. I want to, you know, you might look into the updates there. But anyway, it's literally just that little screw right there, and when you loosen it, it's kind of a clamp. I thought it would be more complicated than that, but it's literally just a clamp. You can kind of see the tension there, and then it is that easy. Obviously, you can kind of twist these and kind of get them out of shape and out of a line. That'll make it harder to slide them off, but when you get them lined up like perfectly, they do slide and glide very easy. So that is it. That is your bonus content. So if for whatever reason, like red is your jam and you want to have that as an accent color, you can get a KTC strip. Obviously, just for good measure, we will do this. I'll just rip off the next big socket. I can take this KTC one. This is the 15/16. Right there, you get the idea. So with that said, hope you enjoyed. I'll catch you back for more from the shop.